We are not your grandmothers and grandfathers in NAACP, and I know some chapters that's what I think of. We wanted to make this organization that already existed, that had a name, to see if we could make it work more effectively for justice in our community.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're here for another episode of Race, Religion, and Politics, the most provocative online talk show in Crittenden County. Some say it's the only online talk show in Crittenden County. But at any rate, we're talking about race, religion, and politics. Those are the things that affect everything that we do. That's what your boss man and your mom and your daddy told you not to talk about, race, religion, and politics. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Now, we're having a good meeting here tonight, January 20th, the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, and we are talking a little bit about social activism and the legacy of Dr. King and a number of other issues that affect us. And I hope that you all will tune in on our Facebook, that's Shabaka Afrika. Just type in my name and go and request to be a friend. Now, we've got close to 5,000 members, so don't get mad if we can't accept you immediately. But go there and look, and this is our media outlet, our Facebook, since we don't own a newspaper. And we're not in charge of CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC. So this is our news outlet. So we are pleased today to have as our special guest the president of the Arkansas State NAACP Conference, Mr. Frank Shaw. Mr. Frank Shaw is a educator in the Forest City area for well over 30 years. He's been involved in NAACP ever since I can remember, all the way back to the 80s. He served as president. Sometimes he's secretary, I think he's he's actually secretary of his branch now. And he's the president of the state, so that's interesting. And he seems to be a person that's always been interested in the human and civil rights of our people. And we asked him to come and share what his views are in terms of social activism, and some call it political activism, but just getting out, trying to get involved in the community, being informed about what's going on, and seeing what we can do to help change the course of history for our communities. So if he doesn't mind, we're going to ask him a few questions, and he's going to respond. We also have our vice president, Ms. Rubye Johnson, and she's been a long time educator, probably 40 years or more in Crittenden County, and she receives all kinds of awards for it too. She's highly recognized around here, and everywhere I go, she's on every board. She's been around the world 2 times, shook hands with everybody 3 times. So anyway, Ms. Johnson, you have any questions of Dr. Shaw?
Well, before we ask him any questions, I think you want to tell us a little something about Dr. King.
Yeah.
So we want to hear what you want to say about Dr. King.
Good evening to everyone. And this is certainly very, very impressive as a branch of the Arkansas State Conference. You all are doing some fantastic work, and of course I've known Mr. Shabaka for a number of years. And some of the things that we've talked about, and some of the things you talked about in your meeting today, and the research I've tried to do and trying to get ready for this program, we have to kind of understand that, because Shabaka and I have not always agreed on everything. But the ultimate goal is to rise above that and do what's best for you and your people. Mm-hmm. And so when I looked at researching some things on Dr. King, that kind of just still, some of the words that he said, some of the things that he's done, his legacy still jumps out. Because one of the things he talked about is always time to do right.
Yes.
It's always right to do right.
It is.
You know. And he said also choose community over chaos. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that. You talked about it in your meeting tonight. And that comes out so pointed. Choose community over chaos. And one of the things that we in Shabaka have talked about a number of times, nobody here gets paid. We don't get paid for being volunteer with the NAACP. There are a number of people around the state, and I've been involved for a number of years, simply because I want to try to leave a better world for my children and my grandchildren. I want them to be able to buy a house in where they want to buy a house at. I want them to be able to get a job if they're qualified to get a job, without having to go through some of the things that I've experienced. Shabaka's had a different experience, Ms. Johnson had a different experience that I've had. But, you know, ultimately, we want to try to see leave a better world for our children than we have had the experience, I say. And so when you look at Dr. King's legacy, he still continues on. I've been to a couple of programs this morning, and we've had some students to talk about the importance of Dr. King. We've had some speakers to talk about how his impact and his words still impact today, even after his death. His words still impact us today. And so as we go through with the program, and I don't want to prolong things, but the final quote that I want to kind of leave with you that he said, I have to take my glasses off a little bit. Everybody can be great, because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love.
Well, thank you for that. I also wanted to point out my experience with the study of Dr. King, as I have done quite a bit of reading, writing, and speaking on the subject of black empowerment, black liberation over the last 30 or 35 or 30, close to 40 years. And what I found in Dr. King, probably more than I found in most people, is that the commitment. This person is committed with his life, and that's why I say, you know, if you aren't prepared to deal with the pushback, you might as well stay home. And how many people know that Dr. King was a serious intellect? He wasn't just somebody that got up and started preaching and running his mouth. And even though today many of us would probably find that we may disagree strategically with some of the things that he did and said, and I would suggest to you, based on my study of him over 13 or 14 years of his life, was that he would disagree with some of the things that he would have done. How many of you wouldn't disagree with something that you did 20 years ago? You probably would see it a little bit different today because of new experiences and new contact. But what I found is that how many people know that Dr. King wrote 4 books? Strength to Love, Strive Towards Freedom, Why We Can't Wait. By the way, if you ever read Why We Can't Wait, look inside from the letter from Birmingham Jail.
Oh, wow.
It is a master political treatise, theological treatise. He says this, he said, while you preach an over yonder salvation, the people are perishing in an earthly hell. Why don't you criticize the circumstances that cause us to be in this situation with the same level of vehemence with which you criticize me? And because I can remember the whole, and he wrote that because he, like the prophet, I believe it was Nehemiah. You know, Nehemiah didn't stop to argue with folks. I spent too much of my life arguing and debating with folks. We cutting that out. He said, "Why I'm doing a great work here, why should the work cease? Whilst I come down to you." I ain't got time to fool with you. Just running your mouth. I'm trying to get something done. I don't hear your opinions. I want to see what you're doing. And so what he did was, he was more mature in that area than me. But what he did was, while he was in jail and had nothing better to do, then he wrote in the margin newspapers, toilet tissue. He started writing his response to the other clergy, particularly, mostly white, but even some black, who condemned him for creating the problems that he was trying to address. Well, of course, you know, that's, we call that distraction, projection, and all that kind of thing. But I found him, and in his last book is Where Do We Go From Here? Community of Chaos. You mentioned that. He talked about that in 1967. He admitted this. Was he said, you know, much of what we did, we made it up as we went along. He said we didn't have a roadmap. So this person, for 13 years, he was hounded every day with somebody wanting to kill him. Every day he got black folk like we have, trying to undermine it. Yes.
Yes.
Black folk, every day he was trying to figure out a way to keep his movement relevant and to keep his followers interested, because he had to manage all of that. And so that was stressful. So if you look at a man that's 39 years old and wonder why he looked 50-something,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Then maybe that partly explains it.
We are not your grandmothers and grandfathers in NAACP, and I know some chapters that's what I think of. We wanted to make this organization that already existed, that had a name, to see if we could make it work more effectively for justice in our community.